Hello and welcome to another episode of What Was, the all-American middle-class suburb. It's something we've all seen in movies. They are so very indistinguishable from each other, almost as if architects just build the same one in every city. But what if instead of being copied, they disappeared out of reality? There are a few urban legends in certain parts of the United States that all have a common theme. They are all about towns that once existed, but suddenly vanished out of reality in a quick moment. Perhaps as a severe case of the Mandela effect, or just people misremembering events. Here are 3 American towns that vanished out of reality. Near the heart of Wisconsin, a small town thrives in its obscurity, Doveland. It was a small but very suburban place with souvenir shops selling shirts and other merchandise. It really doesn't seem that odd, right? You see, in the 1980s, the town vanished and everyone who was in it and maps containing the name were wiped clean. Only things that remained are random merchandise scattered around the corners of the internet. Strangely enough, the town inhabitants who moved out seemingly didn't go away, just people currently living in it. Almost as if a higher being erased the city entirely from not only maps, but reality as well. So, we should get to the theories. What really happened at Doveland in 1989? Theory number 1. Government operation. You can't be a conspiracy theory without at least slightly involving the feds. But with Doveland it seems very much the case. You see, in 1968, the US Navy proposed a giant antenna system covering a majority of the state of Wisconsin as a way of monitoring submarine craft. But since protesters weren't really happy with so many trees getting cut down for paranoid Cold War reasons, it was never fully built. Is what they want you to think. You see, Doveland existed as a part of this antenna system, and it was built in a separate universe that was swapped with the current universe sometime in 1989. But the swap was not successful, and some things managed to sneak in, like people who lived in it and merchandise. We all know that submarine time travel thing, right? Well, that means the US government could obviously do this shit. They built the giant antenna system. They are lying to you with liberal propaganda. The earliest mention of Doveland online is in a deleted Tumblr post from 2015 that explains just what it was. It was included on a conspiracy iceberg in 2020 and it blew up. Later that same year, a page for it was created on the Obscure Urban Legends wiki. Doveland is a tricky internet legend that has the distinction of many people in real life where they're talking about it like it actually happened. There are many comments online of people claiming to have asked their parents about it, and them giving descriptions. It's unknown whether these are actual accounts or not. There is a weird phenomenon when you Google Doveland online. A few pages of missing Wisconsinites pop up. It's unknown why this happens, but maybe it's something deeper. Doveland is a fascinating case study in internet urban legendness. It's a town that vanished overnight, almost on a whim. Nobody seems to know about it. It's likely going to remain that way for quite some time. But for now, we have to close the case on Doveland. For this next town, we have to look into the plains of Montana, Langville. Langville disappeared sometime in the 2000s, which seems odd when you consider how big the internet was when it did, but apparently no one noticed. Folktales around the state have persisted that one day there was a Langville, the next there wasn't. This is even more peculiar considering that it vanished in such a recent time that there was a Google Street View of the town. Screenshots are few and far between and it seems very corrupted, but it does exist. So we must ask yet again, is there a grand conspiracy behind this town? When gold was discovered in Montana in the 1800s, hundreds of settlers were beginning to move to the valleys of the US. These settlers didn't have many places to rest, so people began to build towns specifically for settlers to rest in. When the gold rushes ended, that sparked the end of many towns. Montana has a large number of ghost towns. These ghost towns became legends among certain groups and spread around by word of mouth, in a game of telephone until finally becoming Langville. Its disappearance perhaps being an exaggerated recounting of a town's relocation. We don't really know if it disappeared by force or suddenly, with some claiming that the residents were turned inside out by paranormal beings. People are also confused about when it disappeared completely. It's said that it actually disappeared in the 1900s, and in the 2000s the last remnants of the town were finally erased forever. Perhaps it was actually real. Perhaps this town once had a bustling population. Just like every small town rumor, We may never know. Also, this town was name dropped in the 2016 Ghostbusters movie.
The entire town of Langville, Montana goes missing.
It does? Okay, but we're talking about relocating. No one's being killed here, right?
They were turned.
So it was a marketing gimmick. Fortunately, the gimmick didn't really work out in the long run. But before I get copyright striked, here's the next topic. In 2012, a creepypasta started to make its rounds on the internet, it being one of the earliest known instances of a vanishing town online. This tale takes us to the cornfields of Kansas. In 1952, a massive 7.9 magnitude earthquake struck the state. Its center? A town called Ashley. When law enforcement arrived to take notes and save the inhabitants, they supposedly found a giant burning crack in place of the town outskirts. Confused, they began searching for the town's inhabitants that may have died after the earthquake. After nearly 2 weeks of searching, the state government called the operation off. A week before the earthquake, a local resident called the police of the neighboring town of Hayes, reporting that a small black object was being witnessed in the sky. Despite the police writing this off as some sort of hoax, eventually dozens of phone calls were being made about the exact same thing. Now realizing the situation, the police sent a trooper to investigate the area. The next morning, the trooper radioed the office saying that he was lost on the way to the town. When officers arrived at the scene, they saw that the road leading to Ashley no longer existed. The phone calls reporting the black object kept coming in. The police responded to the calls with the advice of remaining inside until it went away. Some stayed indoors, while others fled via car. A day later, phone calls insisted that the town was completely covered in darkness. A helicopter was sent to monitor the area, but the helicopter failed to find the town anywhere. It almost seemed like the town was inside a black hole. Children of the families were drawn to the dark void, almost as if a being was calling them, and eventually, they would all disappear. Afterwards, a fire was reported to be occurring in the southern outskirts of the town. The fire kept growing until one more phone call before the town disappeared completely. Here are some excerpts.
Ma'am, stay as quiet as you can. Don't make a sound. Stay absolutely still. Don't leave.
Mommy, where are you hiding?
Stay quiet.
I found you, Mommy.
Ma'am?
The town's residents were never seen again. Vanishing towns are a common theme in many cultures. Tales of residencies who have vanished via natural or artificial forces. We have all been through a long road trip, passing by towns that seem insignificant in the grand scheme of things. All of these towns have a culture coming along with them. They have famous people, iconic foods, and little quirks that make them seem special, when in reality they are just a replaceable chunk of land that dwarfs the common city. The Round Valley Reservoir in New Jersey is a small tourist attraction due to its views. Its creation also led to the flooding of a small community. The government made the decision to flood the town due to its important location. It was a small community inside a large valley plain. There was no way people wouldn't move out. Near the date of its flooding, people began to accept the government's plea to move their homes somewhere new, but others weren't so keen on the idea. They tried to stop them from demolishing their villages, but try as they might, their homes and buildings were demolished and the valley was flooded. This valley is said to be cursed by the local population. 26 people have drowned in it since the 70s, and despite efforts to find them, many bodies still lay undiscovered beneath the watery depths. There are far too many examples of towns that once thrived and now lay dormant. Industries change all the time. You can build a town on a specific goal or purpose, but once it has fulfilled that purpose, and its existence is no longer necessary, the town goes down with it. In our current age of fast expansion and gentrification, one may find solace in events they saw long ago but can't recall correctly. Suppose the glitches in reality where our matrix was shattered and objects disappeared without a trace, effectively getting erased from reality. Truthfully, we may never know the real details of any town that vanished and never came back. Tales of these small settlements have existed since humanity first began writing. and it's likely going to remain as a part of our cultural zeitgeist for a while, evolving with the times to accommodate with current storytelling methods. Who knows, maybe our reality is held together by duct tape, and sometimes towns manage to escape from reality.